You're listening to Bottlecast, the official podcast of Bottle Caps. All right, guys, here we have Sarah Peterson from Hop City. Sarah, if you can go ahead and give everybody an introduction of, Hop City, about yourself, and just kind of kick us off here in this Bottlecast episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me backtrack a little bit and tell you about Hop City as a whole. So we just celebrated our 12-year anniversary on Friday. So 12 years ago, our owner, Craig Torres, had the idea that he wanted to have a beer-focused store. So where we live in Georgia, the laws are a little wonky. Things are a little wonky in the South. So we don't have any liquor. We focus primarily on craft beer and also craft wine. And Craig is a huge hophead, loves Belgian beers in particular. So that's kind of where we got our start. There was a one-store operation at the time. We now have 5 locations all day between 2 states and between 2 platforms. We also have restaurants that we are a part of. So that's pretty cool. So all that is to say, Craig has really carved out an awesome niche here in the Southeast United States. So when people have these really cool ideas, we are the ones that they come to because we have, one, the brand recognition, Hop City, people know who that is. And 2, we just have a really amazing team that's able to pull off something like this. So Veil kind of came to the Georgia market looking to do a pop-up event because they don't typically do regular distribution, if you will, So like I can't get this every day of the week, order from my rep, hey, I want X number of cases of Veil. So they wanted to do a pop-up event. They were looking for who could handle that kind of quantity in one day because they wanted to send like 300 cases on a truck and move it in a one-day event. So we were at the top of that list. I'm very fortunate to be a part of this Hop City team. So that's kind of where this idea came from, is how can we blow out a one-day, one big drop event? And things here in Atlanta have recently freed up in like online delivery and online sales, which is where you guys come in. And you've been excellent partners getting us up to speed so that we can deliver here in Metro Atlanta. So definitely without you guys being great partners, we wouldn't have been able to pull off this crazy big event.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that background. No, it's definitely a combination of things. What we strive to do, is really give you guys as much power as possible. It's definitely cool that you're utilizing all the tools that we've built with you guys in mind. But so I guess walk me to the next step. Kyle, she called you, and then how did that go?
Yeah, so Sarah and I spoke in I think early March about some ideas about some type of pre-sale online exclusive. And the example that I gave was, the unicorn product Crown Peach from back in August 2019 when that first launched. And so she launched initially, I think, with the product 450 North.
Yeah.
So I think you guys did 2 sales, right? 2 pre-sales. You did one with 450 North as kind of the, which I assume kind of served as the
trial batch.
Yeah, the trial, the training launch. So you kind of learned from that launch, and then a week, 2 weeks later, you guys started doing the what was it called? The
Veil.
The Veil Brewing, right? So kind of walk us through that and the trial. How did that go? What was helpful? What wasn't helpful? And then what was the kind of the turning point that you guys learned from to make Veil so successful?
Absolutely. So the big difference between the 450 North and the Veil was that our competitors also got 450 North, whereas with Veil, we were the only ones to get it in the entire state of Georgia, and I would even say the entire Southeast. So that was a big push of why we had the crazy numbers we did, and also Veil is just a super hype brewery. But yes, with 450 North, we were able to kind of demo this idea of doing pre-sales because It's another hype beer. It's another super fun product. So if you're a craft beer drinker, they do these like smoothie style sours. So really big mouth feel, tastes like you're drinking a fruit smoothie, really cool. So, and we had a substantially smaller drop that we were getting from them. So it was a perfect way to cut our teeth. We knew that like, hey, if we screwed up and oversold this, there would be some wiggle room, you know, it wasn't just coming one truck one day. Right. So working with Kyle, we talked about the best way to set this up. And of course, there were certain kind of hoops that we had to jump through. So, for example, like let's say that I had 30 cases at my disposal. I needed to make sure that I didn't oversell. So the way that we had to process the order was that we had to go through all the steps and complete an order, even though I didn't have that product in-house. So let's say I had 450 North Big Boss XL. If somebody ordered that, I would have to complete it as if they were able to pick it up that day, because otherwise it wouldn't pull it out of my inventory, and hypothetically I could have oversold that product. Now that did create some confusion, but again, this was a good like trial period, because you know it does send automatic texts and automatic emails to the customer saying, hey, your order is ready for pickup. And then once we press complete, hey, your order is all completed and that money has been taken out of your account. So it was definitely a learning curve. We did have to put some like marketing and promotional and staff education resources behind that, because we got a lot of phone calls, right? People being like, hey, I thought that this wasn't coming till X date, and it's saying I can pick up today. What's going on with that? But that was a learning opportunity. People were cool with it. We were really responsive to that feedback and put out on social media and stuff like, hey, these are exactly the texts that you're going to get. And we took like a screenshot of that and sent it out to the public saying, this is what you're going to see. Just ignore it. This is how we save your spot so that when you come in, it'll be pulled and ready and happy for you. And all you have to do is show your ID and your order number. So that was great, because all day between my two locations, so I have two Metro Atlanta locations, one at Krog Street Market and one at the West End. Between my two locations, I sold about 30 cases of that 450 North. Conversely, for the Veil Day, we sold 200 cases online, not counting what I sold day of and after. So those first 30 cases from 450 North was really important. Really let us get our shit together, you know, so that we had a better thing to say to the public when we got those questions. You know, we had a lot more like FAQs going into the Veil Day because we were able to trial and error with the 450 North.
Gotcha. No, that's so cool to see, honestly, is how you guys worked with the platform and really were agile with what you were needing. Because, you know, with a lot of the things in any tech space, it's really about what the customer and the market, you know, how it responds to it. So let's say we put out this new piece of tech and we're not getting much, let's say, either traffic or we're seeing, you know, choke points. Well, then we go to the source and see, okay, how can we do this better? And in your case, you know, you adjusted very quickly and communicated, more importantly, with your client or with your customers, and we're able to really learn and you know make it work for you guys. And I'm glad we were able to you know to help in that regard. Cool. So, you know, is there anything else, Kyle, that you would want to kind of touch on in this situation? You guys have mentioned, you know, kind of how it went, but maybe let's talk about some timelines. Like, you know, what were some turnaround times? What were some things you had to do, and what were some things you had to do, Sarah, on your end to kind of, you know, get this going? I guess to give us a good sense of that, maybe urgency and the overall project.
Yeah, absolutely. So I worked hand in glove with my distributor because it was all about timing, right? And it's one thing to say like, hey, we're expecting this beer on this day, But as anyone who has waited for an Amazon delivery has experienced, you don't know until it shows up. So we had about a month of foresight on this, but that month was not cut and dry. It was like, hey, these are the overall parameters. Here is a rough estimate of things. And of course, I'm very type A and I like to have everything together. So I kept trying to be like, what are the details? What are the details? What can you promise me? And they're like, I can't super promise a lot. And even, you wait for that delivery to show up and then you say, okay, so what broke? What do we not have? So we made the decision of the cases that we got of each SKU, I held back 10%, just in case there was damage, just in case we oversold something, just in case things found legs and walked away. Because, when you work in this field, things have a way of finding legs and walking away, especially if it's delicious. So it was a lot of managing the delivery, managing the distributor in that sense. And then we made this a huge blowout day for our entire West Side location. So my West Side location, upstairs, I have a full restaurant with bar. Downstairs, I have a 60-line draft bar and beer, wine retail space. So all of this was sold out of that beer, wine retail space, but we had 7 kegs from the Veil on all day between upstairs and downstairs. We did a special brunch menu that paired with the Veil. So we did, it was our second best day on record for my restaurant space, and we could have even had our best day, but we actually ran out of parking. We had people call the next day and say, hey, do you still have those Veil beers on tap? I tried to come yesterday, but the parking lot was overflowing, so we couldn't get in. Especially during COVID time, and we had to be very conscious of that. So we had people come in certain windows. So like from your last name, A to Z, if you were A to C, we had you come from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., D to G, 11 a.m. to noon, so on, just to try to break people up into little groups and not have a crush of 300 people at any one time. Because, we want to be conscious of that. We've been very, very impacted by COVID this whole last year and a half. So we wanted to keep our team safe. We wanted to keep our customers safe. And at the end of the event, we sent a follow-up email with a survey asking a couple different questions, how did you find the ordering process? How did you find the pickup process? How did you find the overall day, etc.? And in general, we got very high marks. People were really excited. People thought the way that we handled the COVID aspect was great. Sometimes you go to these events and there's a line a mile long and, if you don't buy that day, it runs out and you don't get it. So people loved the idea of a pre-sale, that their beer was guaranteed. And we were able to hold on to people's product for about a week afterwards as well. So, we had one day for yay, this blowout event, all the bells and whistles. But what if you were out of town that day? You don't want to miss your Veil. So we were able to hang on to that for a week. People were able to come and get it at their leisure, if you will. And that worked out really well too. And so if I had my second best day for the restaurant upstairs, I did very well in the retail space that day as well. Of our sales in a week, we did half of our weekly sales in that one day. So it was a great day for our building as a whole.
Yeah.
On the first day that we announced the Veil pre-order, we did $15,000 of pre-sales.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That is music to our ears, because again, the whole platform is designed to keep y'all's profits in mind, and keep your customers as your customers. And so it's such a win for us, even beyond the numbers, just just to see folks like you grow in what you're doing, and we're just happy to be a part of that process. But I guess just to kind of start concluding it a bit, what is some advice you'd give, Sarah, to anybody that's looking to kind of explore the e-commerce space? And I mean, I think you have a very unique situation because you mentioned a restaurant space, but someone in the alcohol bev industry. What's some quick pointers you'd give to them if they're on the fence about e-commerce?
It's been a huge win for us, especially since we are able to deliver in Atlanta, which was turned on, I think, in October of last year. But this is a great way that people are home right now and in the last year that they can kind of thumb through our inventory. It really sparks a conversation. Obviously, anything online is not going to be perfect when you're dealing with a live inventory like we have. And I know that's one of the biggest complaints that we have as a retailer, and also that our customer has as the recipient, that, hey, your website said that you have this, but when I tried to place that order, it was out. But what I have found is that my team has really responded to starting that conversation. So when you go to order X product and I'm out of it, we don't just cancel that order and have no follow-up. We call them and say, hey, I see that you were trying to order Bell's Amber. I'm so sorry that I'm out of that, but here are some great suggestions of other products that would kind of fit that niche. And then kind of getting to know them and adding other things onto their order as well, and just really increasing our brand awareness, because there are people who maybe have limited access to transportation, or you're going to have a party and you don't want to leave your house, but you ran out of beer. We can get that to you. Again, it's really just been a great starting point for people who either haven't been to our place before or aren't familiar with our entire selection. Because when you walk into a place like Hop City, people all the time say, oh my God, this is like an adult candy store. And it is. We have all the pretty labels, we have all the fun new stuff, and sometimes it's hard to say, where do I get started? So we use we call it the newsletter feature. I think that sometimes it's like a staff favorites feature or featured products area of your website. And we change that every week to show what we're featuring in our newsletter, what we're excited about, any new product that we have coming in. We do a lot of different beer collaborations. So if you looked at our website right now, you would see that we have a collaboration with 2 different breweries here in the Atlanta area. So those are some different ways that we've been able to make it work for what we're going for. I would also say that things aren't perfect. And I think people get a little shy about things like this because they expect perfection, or when they go to start using it, it can be frustrating, like any new technology can. I want to give you guys a lot of credit. You have been really responsive to our feedback, positive and negative. When we were first kind of getting the online and delivery aspect worked out, it was frustrating and there was a lot of back and forth, but we were able to build a couple G sheets internally that helped us get new pictures up, get new product descriptions up, so that it wasn't like a frustration point that broke my team down all the time. It was like, yep, here's a problem, but here's the workaround and how we can solve it. And your IT team has been great about handling anything like that within 1 to 2 days. So that's a pretty quick turnaround as far as IT things are considered. So, I think just a little patience, a little time. We kind of talked about it at the beginning of this conversation that we're in a fun industry. I'm so grateful that I get to talk about beer and wine every day for a living. That's pretty awesome. So when people start to get a little bent out of shape, I like to remind them hey man, we're talking about beer and wine, none of this is an emergency. None of this is solving the world's problems. Let's have a beer and let's talk about it and let's find an answer. So that would be my biggest takeaway is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Everything is fixable. You guys are a very responsive team. It's not like a huge corporation that like I'm just blindly submitting tickets and I never hear back from anyone. If I need anything, I know that I can call Kyle and he's going to get back to me in a couple of hours, like, hey, here's my solution for this. We've pitched out some other ideas to Kyle too about different things. And he's been awesome about follow-up about like, we're maybe not at a point that we can integrate that yet, but we're going to put it on our big idea list for the rest of the year and see how we can work that in. So it's great to feel heard and not just like we're another number, especially since we don't have the liquor component. I know that can be more money and a bigger deal. So I really feel like you guys do a great job of making the little guy heard.
Absolutely. No, those are all words to live by. And honestly, you've made me want to crack open a cold one just because
That's right.
we can totally cheers to that. And you touched on so many good points. I don't even know where to start, but it's like any great relationship. It takes a bit of time to curate, and we understand each other better. And our client services guys do an awesome job of laying expectations down, because you're absolutely right. Tech is such it's a fickle thing, but once we get it right, it works great for everybody. But well, awesome, Sarah. I definitely appreciate your time. Kyle, is there anything you wanted to run before we conclude this?
No, yeah, actually, yeah. So, if you were to give like one or two pointers to somebody who has not done a pre-sale because of not knowing how to do it right, or you were there 2 months ago. What would you tell these, newbies about doing a pre-sale, in, just a few bullet points?
Sure. So first I would talk about like the outward messaging to your consumer, and to get ahead of some of that. Like we built an FAQ site for both the 450 North and the Veil launch, so that people had something to reference when they had questions or concerns or whatever, because so much of life is about setting expectations. So we were able to get ahead of a lot of these problems by setting that expectation of, hey, these are some snags that you might hit when you're making this pre-sale as a consumer, and everything is normal, everything is okay. So that would be the biggest one, is to be upfront with your customers, teach your staff what the problems are, so that when they get the call, they're not just like, oh, I don't know, man, tech is hard. That is the biggest part, setting expectations, understanding it's not going to be a perfect process, but knowing that there are ways around it. So boom, number one. Number two, I would hold back some inventory, because tech is not perfect and you might oversell things. So we ended up overselling on the Veil by less than a case on a couple of the hotter demand items, because sometimes it just takes a little time for the computer to connect with inventory, etc. By the time we hit yes, it hasn't totally sunk with itself. So just to hold a little bit back. So if you got 20 cases of something, maybe only put 18 of them for sale on your website, so that you have some oh shit product. Again, things break, things walk away. You have an unhappy customer. They drop it in the parking lot. Have some oh shit products, so then you look like the hero,
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
Those would be two of my big ones. Because of who I am, I have the world's biggest binder. So we had like 350 unique orders, 350 people who purchased. So I had like a 4-inch 3-ring binder that I had in alphabetical order, because this was a huge event. I don't think most people would do an event of this size. But I had everybody's order printed out, ready. I asked them for their ID and their order number when they came up. And again, that was an expectation that we set going into the day. Like, hey, what do I need to bring for Veil Day? You need your ID, you need your order number, and you need to wear a mask and do all the COVID stuff. But So then when people came up to me, it was incredibly easy for us to find their name, find their order number, tear that sheet out of my crazy big book, and pass it off to my people who picked the order. And it was just so smooth because we had all of our ducks in a row. So just to like, don't trust the customer to be prepared. You need to be prepared on their behalf, because they're just going to show up and say, hey man, my name's Brian Anderson. I think I have some Veil beer to pick up. So just to try to like put as much of the preparedness on you, because I mean, you're the one making the sale, making the money. So, and these are people who are drinking beer, you know, so you gotta take as many whoopsies out of the circumstances possible. So I guess those are the three things that I would say is
Awesome.
have something to say to your consumer, get ahead of that, hold some product back for oh shits, and then have your own orders airtight and locked down.
Right on. I love it. I think that's great feedback. And this is likely to help a lot of people who are kind of on the fence. And so thank you for sharing your success with us, and for your feedback and being open, honest, transparent about the whole process.
Yeah, and I will say this is snowballing us into doing more events like this with other breweries. So people definitely stood up and took note. We had competitors come out to our Veil event just to kind of like have a beer and look around. We had a lot of breweries from the Atlanta area come out and support, because one, we're kind of the OG in the craft market here, and again, they want to use this tool for their own brands too. Like, hey, Hop City did this for $4.50 and for Veil. How can they do this for us? So it definitely put us on the map as a mover and a shaker, you know, like if you want your product out to the masses, we can do it. So we've had some inquiry from some locals and some bigger folks that I'm perhaps not at liberty to discuss.
That's fine.
No, absolutely. That is awesome to hear. Well, yeah, no, I think, again, thanks, Sarah. Let's go ahead and do a shameless plug, right? Where can people find you if they want to, you know, reach out and see what Hop City is all about?
Please, absolutely. So hopcitybeer.com is our main website. Of course, we're on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, all of that good stuff. And then come see us in person in my Metro Atlanta area. Like I said, I've got 2 locations. We've even got one in Birmingham, Alabama. Barley Garden is our restaurant team. We've got Boxcar here in Atlanta too, and we just opened a new restaurant and retail space in Fayetteville, Georgia. So if you're kind of in the Metro Atlanta or Birmingham area, please come see us. We've got your beer and wine needs on lock.
Thanks for listening to Bottlecast, the official podcast of Bottle Caps. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Cheers.